Who has access to what in Dynamics GP? In this segment, we'll discuss how access works in Dynamics GP and dive into a few exercises to make sense of it all. Each window in Dynamics GP has a unique name, and because of this, we are able to control who has access to each window in the application. As a general rule, if a user can get into the window, you can expect they will have the ability to make changes to the data represented in that window. For example, if you had access to inquiry-only windows, you could only view, not change or modify that data. But if you had maintenance or transaction window access, you could create new records such as vendors or customers, or enter and post transactions such as journal entries or cash receipts from customers. Worse yet, if one of your users erroneously had access to some of the utilities windows, they could potentially delete or even remove historical data. Windows in GP are predominantly made up of a few key types. Inquiry windows. These are read-only versions of the setup, maintenance, and transaction windows. Granting access to these is typically harmless from a data standpoint. However, some inquiry windows will expose transactions, balances, or could, in some cases, sensitive payroll or HR information, so beware of that. Report windows. These windows are used to first create and later to make parameter or filter changes to the canned, memorized reports. These windows are also frequently used to run or execute them as well. Setup windows. These windows are used to perform system or module setup in some fashion. Examples include payment terms, payables and receivables setup, where the aging buckets and module options are defined, and the sales order processing document codes. Maintenance windows. These windows are used to create new records used by transactions or to modify existing ones. Examples of these would be the vendor and customer maintenance windows, where their banking and billing information is stored, as well as the account maintenance window, where the P&L versus the balance sheet setting and category is configured on each general ledger account. Transaction windows. These windows are designed for data entry and posting. Each module has its own configuration and special data entry windows, as needed to fulfill its designated subledger responsibilities. A few examples: payables versus purchase order processing transactions, fixed assets versus general ledger transactions, receivables versus sales order processing, and cash receipts versus bank transactions. Finally, utility windows. These windows allow special purpose access to sensitive areas of the system. Each utility window is specific to a module, but also available in the system and company areas of the application. These are often really helpful or even necessary for the everyday GP administrator. Examples include item modifier, vendor modifier, and so forth. Utilities also have a dark side. They can also be leveraged to delete or remove data from the database. All of these window types are spread across each functional area of the application, and even the ISV products have their own special security setup requirements. So how do we go about the discovery process for seeing who has access to what? Most people turn to the standard Dynamics GP reports, but in paper format, these represent endless pages of text-based role and task information. Because of the sheer volume of possibilities, the reports are often very lengthy. They frequently run in the hundreds or even thousands of pages. But reports, as reliable as they may be, are old school and rather inefficient. You can try looking in SmartList now, right? Not really. To cap it off, there are no standard smart lists for GP security. They certainly didn't make this easy. The idea I want to share with you today is how you can use Microsoft Power BI to read the security information and provide a large set of visual and analytical dashboards which provide ongoing confirmation the Dynamics GP application users are appropriately configured. Let's find out who has access to what in Dynamics GP with the Security Analyzer. There are a whole lot of reports laid out to help you quickly analyze which users and roles are granted access to the windows in Dynamics GP. They're organized at the bottom here. We have inquiry windows, setup windows, maintenance, entry windows. I also have a page that exposes any of the utilities and the deletion and removal windows and any of the windows that might perform a reconciliation function. Each of these dashboards highlights or lays flat the 8 primary or core setup areas of GP, which are the system or dynamics area, the company area, the financial, payables, receivables, sales order processing, inventory, and purchase order processing. At the top, there are 3 slicers: the user slicer, the role slicer, and the task slicer. The last tile, the users tile here, is a responsive list that automatically filters down the list of users affected by the reporting selection. So from this inquiry page, let's start. Starting with the users, let's select. Clear it first, and let's select Jack. And observe the user's related access to the roles, tasks, and windows that are inquiry-based and associated with Jack's permission set. Let's reset this list. Moving over to the maintenance page, you see the similar concept. This time, I'll use the roles slicer. Let's clear. And let's start off by looking at the AP clerk. This is one of the default roles that comes with Dynamics GP. The related task list is automatically sliced as well. You'll see the windows the AP clerk has access to from a maintenance standpoint. Notice they can create vendors, change their addresses, but they can't create general ledger accounts or inventory items. Let's clear this back up. Save it for next time. This next one is one of my favorites. Let's look on the entry page and dig into who has access to enter certain types of transactions. First, on the lower right corner, let's find out who can enter purchase orders. In the purchase order tile, I will scroll down until I find the purchase order entry window. When I select that object, the list in the top right corner tells me the users that are assigned to that. Let's open that back up. Let's move over to inventory now. Who has the ability to enter inventory transactions? Perform that filter, and you'll see that the operations manager, the purchasing agent, and a purchasing manager are the only 3 users in my system that can enter that type of transaction. Finally, let's go over to the setup page and see who can get into some of the key windows where setups are performed. What about the fiscal period setup window? Who can get in there? Let's scroll down in the company section, select the fiscal period setup window, and you'll notice that only the accounting manager and the power users have access to that window. Let's clear that by selecting it again. And what about sales order processing setup? Again, we'll scroll down this list. We find the sales order processing setup window. And immediately in the top right corner, you know which user IDs have access to that window. GP security does not have to be hard or expensive to understand, analyze, or report on. I hope this segment was helpful and informative. We'd love to hear from you. If you are interested in learning more about the GP Security Analyzer, please visit our website at GraVoc.com, Power BI Solutions. Thank you for your interest in watching today. If you know of anyone who would benefit from knowing about this solution, Please forward the link and spread the word. In closing, we hope we get to speak with you, or perhaps work together soon on getting your GP security under control.